Hello everyone and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Allie.
And I'm Sara.
And we are bringing you a great show as ever this week. I'm happy because West Ham won. Sarah's happy because Arsenal won. Mike is unhappy because Brighton lost. So...
Who did Brighton lose to?
Who did Brighton lose to? Would it possibly be West Ham?
Sorry, Mike. Allie, apologize now. There was no trigger warning for Mike on that. He just is doing the edit and boom, within the first 30 seconds, poor Mike.
I'm sorry, Mike, but I'm not that sorry.
You know what? West Ham need to take them where they can get them because they're few and far between. Actually, it's funny because looking at the standings, Brighton have 5 wins and West Ham have 4.
Yeah,
so it's really not that different.
And who was the Brighton's last win against? West Ham. They haven't won since, and that was in October.
But you know what? I mean, we're not even supposed to be getting into the WSL right now. But while Brighton has 5 wins and West Ham has 4, that's the difference between 5th place and 8th place on the table, and that'll tell you it's getting tight in the middle. Top, what do you want to call that? Do we call it the middle or like the top of the bottom?
Well, we'll use what Mike said, because when Mike I said, oh yeah man, we needed that win, and Mike just messaged me and went, yes, welcome to mid-table. I was like,
it is mid-table, it really is. And it's mid-table partially because also like what a Tottenham are just terrible right now, and we're gonna get into that. What a transition that was.
That was a great transition.
What do we have on the docket today, Allie?
We are going to talk about the North London derby, mainly because, like I said, I'm obsessed with derbies at the moment, but it was an absolute thrashing of Tottenham by Arsenal. So we're going to talk about the game a little bit, but we're also going to talk about why Spurs are so Spursy and what it is that's not allowing them to like really kick on, because they really should, and they seem to be just stuck in 6th at the moment.
Not just at the moment. Not to jump right into it, but they've been stuck in the same place for like all of eternity of the WSL. And we're going to answer the question of why. Or we're going to try to answer the question of why.
We are indeed. And then as ever, we're going to take you around the world. And then it is international break. I'm going to try and feign some enthusiasm for it.
I'll bring it. Just if you can, I got it. I'm so excited. She believes. What does she believe? We'll never know, but she believes.
I'm with Hope Solo. It's the dumbest name of a tournament. But anyway, and very rarely will I say the words I'm with Hope Solo, but I am on that one. But we are going to talk She Believes, and we're going to talk about the different matchups. They've gone back to the original format, which is everybody plays each other. I think fans are excited for that because it was a bit lackluster last season where they like just random teams were assigned and they played each other and then there was a final. So they all play. So we're going to talk about that and the crazy matchups and what we expect. And then we're going to talk about Nations League. Not all 4 home nations and the Republic of Ireland are playing over the next couple of weeks. So we're going to talk about who they're playing, because remember, this is super important because it will lead to World Cup qualification. But before we get into all of that, we do have a slight correction from last week's episode. So Sarah, take it away.
So somebody who listens to this show reached out to us about this, and I want to thank her for that. I'm not going to say the name publicly, but thank you for reaching out and for what you said. And based on that, I really appreciate it, because last week when we were talking about the Mape Leon incident, we're not going to recount it right now. If you listened to last week, this will apply. And if you didn't, this is going to be quick, so don't worry, it'll be 30 seconds. We were talking about the lip reading from Mape Leon, and we went in for the record, we always check our sources and we make sure that we have credible sources behind it. But this time we did check the sources, and we found it through, Spanish outlets, and we were wrong because they reported it wrong. There's a correction that Mape Leon did not say that transphobic thing that everybody is saying that she said. And we were wrong in that because it is something that is so sensitive. This issue that was really brought to the front through this incident. We should have waited and made sure that our source was the literal club and the literal player in Daniela Caracas that we were speaking about. And we did not do that. We just trusted the sources that we found. And for something this sensitive, we really should have just waited, because the correction is that Mape Leon never did say the thing that we mentioned that she said. That has been reported now from the club and from the player. And we recognize that with something so sensitive, this could have brought, some unwanted heat on Daniela Caracas. And we would never want to do something to bring that kind of heat on a player when it's actually not something that was a part of the conversation. So that's our correction from last week, and something that we want to just own and take ownership of, because it was incorrect, and we wish we'd handled it with a little more delicacy. We tried to do our best, but we should have waited for the very, very source of sources of the player it actually happened to.
So to begin, we're going to start with our game of the week, and it was the North London derby, Arsenal versus Tottenham. It was at the Emirates. There was over 56,000 people there. For those that don't know, Arsenal took it 5-0, and it was definitely a game to forget if you're a Tottenham fan, and it was definitely a game to celebrate if you're an Arsenal fan, because it was a pure demolishing.
Arsenal absolutely dismantled Tottenham. From beginning to end, there was no hope, there was no light, there was no anything for Tottenham. And if you think I'm exaggerating, the halftime statistics were as follows. Tottenham had 1 shot, 0 of them were on target. It was an utter dismantling, and it was something that gave me hope that maybe Arsenal can make it far in the Champions League this year, because we know the league is out of grasp, which we can also speak about. They're talking about it on the US broadcast, which I thought was really great, in saying that, listen, Chelsea aren't coming to you. You got to go get Chelsea, and that's the reality of this. And when I see games like this, I think this is the Arsenal that I want, but, I guess that is against a team that, like Tottenham is, they have not done all that well this season, which is what we're going to speak about. But before we get on to Tottenham, we got to talk about this game for a second, because there's so much to discuss. I don't know what I want to talk about first. First and foremost, a little bit of history, because Tottenham have only beat Arsenal once in this WSL matchup. Arsenal have 13 wins, Tottenham once. That came in December of 2023. And there was one draw that came November of 2021 that I still remember clear as day, as if it happened yesterday. I know where I was and exactly how I felt watching that draw. But this was a showing from Arsenal. Does this kind of change your mind at all about how you see Arsenal this season? Do you think that they have a newfound energy with, they signed Jenna Neiswanger, obviously Chloe Kelly, who made her debut. We can talk about that. Her debut part 2, we'll call it. Her debut since 2018 with Arsenal, and what a place to do it in the Emirates. Do you feel like Arsenal have a newfound energy? Do you feel like you found that they were playing any different? Did this change your mind on Arsenal?
No. To be frank, no, it didn't, because it was against Tottenham, and when we get into the Spurs of it all, then that will make more sense. Do this against a Manchester United, do this against a Manchester City or a Chelsea, then we're talking. I thought Arsenal played some beautiful football, do not get me wrong. I thought from back to front they were it was just beautiful. And like you said, the way they turned the Tottenham defenders to get their goals. We'll talk about Fox's goal at the very end, because that was something else. And I did love that the post-match interview, somebody said, well, what was going through your mind? And she just went, Leah Williamson told me to shoot, so I did as I was told. And I just think that was brilliant. She was like, I had Williamson behind me going, shoot! And so I did. And it worked.
Somebody needs to put that on a shirt. Leah Williamson told me to, and so I did.
Yeah, basically. And again, I think it says more to me, and Arsenal fans don't come at me, it says more to me about the state Tottenham are in than the progression of Arsenal. I don't want to take away from Arsenal's win, because it was absolutely stunning. It was, this is what you want a derby to be. You've absolutely thrashed your local rivals. This is what you want. This is what you dream of when you go in the massive Emirates in front of 56,000 people. I thought that, absolutely stunning. And I do want to shout out Caldente. I thought she had a phenomenal match, probably the best I've seen her in an Arsenal shirt. And she's been phenomenal for them, but this was probably one of the best. But for me, it does say more about Tottenham's woes than it does about Arsenal's successes.
I agree. And Arsenal looked great. And I've really given them a reaming of recent, because I just could not stand that January transfer window for them, and the fact that they had the opportunity to go get so many great players and they just couldn't finish the job. They're a great team. They really are. And I'm not surprised. I think that they said it best on the broadcast here too. I think of WSL teams, they are second to only Chelsea in terms of how well they move the ball. And that was really on display in this game. And I mean, Arsenal have lost to Chelsea twice this season, both of them by 1 goal. And when you look at it that way, I think it's a really good picture of just where Arsenal are. They're a great team. They can certainly compete, but that's not quite good enough for somebody like me. But this game in particular, I really loved. It was just so much fun. And Emily Fox with that banger at the end really just put a cap on it for me. I was so happy I didn't just turn it off early. And it was so fun to see Chloe Kelly back in the mix.
Yeah, you know what? It was good to see. She did seem very happy. She talked about it at the again in the end game that she was happy to be, back and got some great minutes. And we'll get onto it when we talk about Nations League. But it's also earned her another call up into the England camp because they've brought her in along with Lucy Parker. So she's still in that mix as well. So it seems to have worked out all round for Chloe Kelly.
Yeah, we certainly are going to come on to that when we get on to England later on in the show. So let's do it. Let's talk about Spurs because Tottenham Hotspur were absolutely dismantled. And I mentioned one statistic. Let's just rip through the full game statistics quickly. Arsenal with 27 shots to Tottenham's 6. In terms of shots on target, Arsenal had 12 to Tottenham's 2. Possession was weighted in favor of Arsenal with 65% possession. And that does not even, I would have guessed it was maybe 70, but Tottenham kind of picked it up towards the end when a bunch of subs came on. So let's talk about it because if I were to tell you that a team with Bethany England, Jessica Naz, Haley Rasso, Neville's been a constant over there, that Martha Thomas, Drew Spence, that a team with all of these players was going to be dismantled 5-0. Claire Hunt, Australian, Matilda legend. And I know, obviously, the name on the back of the jersey isn't everything. Oh, there's so much more. But when you look at the talent that Tottenham has, it does not align to how they are doing in the standings. Would you agree?
100%. You look at, and not even just the team that played. You look at their subs. You look at the, they brought in Kopp as a goalkeeper, and she has been starting, but she doesn't seem to be better than Becky Spencer, who she replaced.
No, absolutely not. It's talking about games you want to forget.
Yeah,
certainly one for her.
And also, but that makes me, because she came from Leicester, and we'll get onto this stat about Tottenham, but Leicester, despite their position, have conceded some of the fewest. They just have conceded 1-2, and that's why they've lost so many. But she was great at Leicester. I see why Tottenham brought her in. She was doing fantastic. She kept them up. She was fantastic for them. And then she's come to Tottenham, and she's got Spursy, and she has she conceded.
Well, to me, you know what that says, though, because I feel like that's a really good point, because I feel like that points us in the direction of what is wrong here. And it means that it's a larger issue. A, she's being really hung out to dry by the defense. B, there's an issue of gelling, because you have to work with your back line. A goalkeeper has to work with their back line and vice versa, and the lines have to work together. There's a lot of great players here. This team has not gelled whatsoever within the lines or across the lines. And I think that's a big part of what's gone wrong. And you mentioned this in the intro, so let's just say it now. Tottenham are sitting in 6th place, 5 wins, 2 draws, 7 losses. They've scored 19 goals. That's fine. They kind of sit pretty much right in the middle of the pack in terms of how many they've scored. But then you look at what they've conceded. 31 goals conceded on this season. That is the second to worst in this entire league. The worst being Crystal Palace, who is basically already relegated, and they're at 38. It's only 7 more goals that they've let in. Tottenham are leaking goals.
Isn't that a shocking stat? That is my current favourite stat at the moment, and not just because I don't like Tottenham, but the fact that they are the second worst in terms of goals conceded. That's outrageous. And you look at that back line, and I'm looking at the back line from Sunday's game, and it is a mixture of youth and experience, because you have got Ashley Neville, you've got Claire Hunt, who are the experienced, and you've got Molly Bartrip.
Bartrip's not that young, though. She's 28.
Yeah, and Nilden's 26, I believe. definitely in her mid-20s. And I'm not saying that, you get to 30 and you get put out to pasture, but it is one of the oldest defensive back lines. And
Claire Hunt is the youth here. She's 25. Yeah. But other than that, I completely agree. Like, watching Ashley Neville in this game, I was like, oh, there you go. She's past her prime. She's gone down the other side. And they need some fresh legs in there, and they need some fresh leadership.
She got turned so easily. Hunt got turned so easily. Not only, unfortunately, I will give the goal to Russo, because I do think it was just an unfortunate sort of hit. The goal was going in anyway. It just happened to hit Hunt.
Yeah, but in the rest of the 90 minutes, they were getting turned like crazy by Russo as well.
That's what I meant. Yeah. But then you look at for the third goal, and Hunt was completely turned about. And this is why I say it was a game that she needs to forget. They need, like you said, some new leadership in there. They need something to give it a kick up the butt, because they've not got it. And the back line, I do feel sorry for Kopp, because she's being let down time and time again by her back line, because they get turned so easy, and there's no tracking back, because they just don't, I think, have the pace for it. It's probably one of the slowest back lines that I've seen, because you get past Ashley Neville, she's not coming back to get you.
They've done an incredible job investing in their attack. I mentioned already Haley Rasso, Beth England, Jessica Naz. You've got plenty of talent off the bench. Martha Thomas comes in off the bench. And, it's just, that's great. That's all well and good. But you have to score a hell of a lot of goals with that offense if you're going to concede that many. And I don't think that the person who put this team together really thought that they'd leak as many goals as they did, because this is incredible. And why not really start to change something? Like, you got Drew Spence on the bench, and why not try it, right? I know Drew Spence is 32, but talk about leadership, talk about experience coming from Chelsea and what she's been able to do, and her understanding of the game, and just pure leadership overall. Why wouldn't, at this point, you just lost 5-0? Bring her in, try something new. It's not like you're going to win the league. I don't really see you getting relegated. So let's try to figure this out. Bring in Drew Spence and figure out something new in this back line, because like we said, it's the gelling. They're not coming together. Get somebody in there that understands positioning to a crazy degree and to a crazy level. And Drew Spence, having played under Emma Hayes, truly must. So why not? Yeah.
Beth England's the same. Having played under Hayes, should absolutely know. And to be honest, the reason they're in such a good position as they are is because of Beth England and the goals that she's managed to bang in. I'm thinking of the Crystal Palace game where they were 2-0 up and then they went to 2-2. And again, it wasn't until a final Tottenham goal in injury time that they managed to do it. For me, on paper, they are one of the most, them and Aston Villa, and we'll talk about Villa another day.
Oh, I had the same thought. I was like, why are they the same as Villa? Because I'm constantly disappointed by them, because I constantly look at this and be like, here we go. Now they're going to be the team we expect them to be. And then every year, another letdown.
Exactly. They are the most disappointing team for me in the WSL, because on paper they should be challenging for fourth, third even, especially when we've seen some of the, dreggy performances from Arsenal, Man City and even United at times. They should be challenging that, and they should be, really, like I said, they're not going to win the league. They're not going to do a Chelsea, but they are one of the teams that you can say, you know what, you could disrupt that top three, like Man United have. Man United have disrupted that traditional top three, and each and every season they seem to get to sixth, and then it's almost like they've got vertigo and they don't want to go any higher.
Yeah. Let me tell you this. Okay, so the 20-21 season, they finished in 8th place. And then the following season, 21-22, up to 5th. And I remember after that year, I was like, okay, next year, Tottenham, they're going to start challenging because they're in 5th. Now they're going to really start contending with the top 3, top 4 teams. Following season, 22-23, all the way back down to 9th. And then you're like, oh my God, okay, another reconstruction. They do a little bit. They bring some players in. 23-24, back up to 6th place. And they're just sitting in 6th again.
Yeah, it is. And I'm like, Spurs fans, hit us up. What is it about your team that's just not connecting? Because you know what? You're out of both competitions now in terms of silverware. So it's going to be another season without silverware. again. You know, you managed to get to the FA Cup final last season. You're out in the 5th round, I believe it was. So, like, guys, what's got to change for you? Like, is it players or is it manager?
I was gonna say, I think maybe it's the manager, but you know, so the current manager, Robert Villahan, he was hired in 2023. I don't think a managerial change right now is going to do all that much. I do think it's a matter of bringing in more players into the back line and team chemistry, and then see what happens there. And then if nothing changes, we look at the manager and we look maybe above the manager to see what's going on. But I don't know. Yeah. Tottenham fans, let us know. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
To Scotland, and Rangers capitalised on their local rivals' draw this weekend, and they had a massive win and have jumped straight to the top of the league. Celtic and Glasgow City drew, leaving all 3 teams on 51 points. However, Rangers have a healthy plus 94 goal difference, giving them a significant edge.
Over to Italy. Juve are 7 points clear on the back with their win this weekend. Fiorentina and Roma ended in scoreless draws, whereas the Internazionale game was a little more end-to-end, with a final result being 4-4, a draw with Lazio.
To Germany, and Bayern Munich get some much-needed breathing space with their win this weekend, allowing a 3-point gap to appear between them and Eintracht Frankfurt. Frankfurt, however, suffered a heavy defeat against Wolfsburg, severely denting their goal difference. It is, however, still all to play for.
And finally, to Mexico in La Liga MX, Pachuca remain undefeated this season, and further that with a win this weekend. America are just below them with 24 points. It's much tighter in the other playoff places, with just 4 points between 3rd and 8th place.
Now we go over to international break. Can you tell I'm thrilled? We'll go into international break, and we're going to start off with the tournament of tournaments. It is She Believes. It starts on Thursday, the 20th of February. That is tomorrow. And the 4 teams, if you are not aware, are the USA, Japan, Australia, and Colombia.
I love this. It's a good 4. This sets us up for every game, I think, being like a really fun, good game.
So the format this year, they have gone back to the traditional She Believes format, which I think is more popular with fans. I know that last year's format of like 2 random teams playing each other, and then there was a 3rd place playoff and a winner tie, didn't quite work. So this year, everybody is going to play everybody, and then whoever has the best points tally out of that will win the She Believes.
Yeah, I think there's just more time for She Believes this year. We were looking at the schedules because now there's time for 3 games. And I think previously, last year, there were only 2. Each team only got 2.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah.
So I think it is more exciting, this format. So it gives a bit more. And also you get to see different types of football going up against different types of football, which is always the fun element of international break.
Plus, another fun element is that in the lead up to the World Cup, we get to see the rosters. The rosters, we're not going to spend a ton of time here on the U.S. Women's National Team roster, but there are some things that I think are noteworthy. The main thing that I kind of want to touch on with the U.S. Women's National Team, or I guess there's 2 things. Part one, I will say, is that I've had the fortune of being able to join the press conferences with Emma Hayes, and I will say, I've heard, I feel like at this point, a fair few number of coaches speaking to the press and speaking to media, and none of them give answers as direct as Emma Hayes. She gives so much information. It makes you feel like there's really nothing I'm holding back from you. I'm not going to give you my tactics, but if you want to ask me a question about why a player's not on this roster, I'm going to tell you why she's not on this roster. And I so very appreciate it. So I've had the pleasure of listening to her speak a lot about the U.S. Women's National Team over the past year or so. She has obviously spoken on a lot of players and everything, but I think the most important thing that she has said as an overarching theme, and you can see this from who she's been calling into camp, is that she is very focused on making sure that the depth of the U.S. Women's National Team is strong. And let's take the right back as an example right now, because she actually spoke about this in Emily Fox, right? Let's say Emily Fox, she plays every game for the U.S. Women's national team, and then, hey, oh my goodness, right going into the World Cup, knock on wood, this doesn't happen, she gets hurt and she can't play. And now suddenly you're left with a bunch of players who don't have a lot of experience at that level, and you're kind of screwed. So right now it is very clear that she is investing time in developing the depth of the U.S. Women's national team, so that any player that could potentially be called into a tournament for whatever reason is ready in terms of experience, is ready in terms of tactics and time with the team and just experience on the international level. And that is something that has been very missing from the U.S. Women's national team for a long time, and I so appreciate it. So if you're looking at the roster or the call-up sheets and you're like, why is this person here and this person's not? Well, it's probably depth. That is probably a good answer. It's probably because, hey, in the timeline, there's still 2 years, and this is kind of one of the last moments in 2025, throughout the rest of this year, that we can continue to develop this depth before we really need to hone in on what that smaller pool of players is. And I really love that about what Emma Hayes is doing. It's part of why she created the U.S. Women's National Team Seniors Camp and the Futures Camp. It's just an extension of her developing the program at not just the senior level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The thing that came for me with the lineup was I'm intrigued by the goalkeeper situation, because
yes, aren't we all?
Because obviously the GOAT retired from international football. Alyssa Neha, anybody who's not aware who the GOAT is, and I was intrigued to see who she was going to call up. She's only called up 2, I believe, which so it's Jane Campbell from the Houston Dash and
Mandy McGlynn, otherwise formerly known as Mandy Hott, for those of you who might not recognize that last name. I really want to ask you, because you just called Alyssa Neha the GOAT. Did she overtake Hope Solo in your mind?
No, but I meant in recent times. I meant in recent times. Hope Solo, for me, regardless of personal opinion, will always be the greatest goalkeeper of all time. But and also there is a running joke for anybody who doesn't listen to the other 8. Me and Mike nominate our GOAT of the week. Because
love it.
So yeah, but no, so obviously Neha was like always guaranteed. You could guarantee unless she was injured, and so I'm intrigued by the goalkeeper situation, because there is only 2. You've obviously got Mandy, who hasn't got any caps, like she's been called into camps but has never actually played.
She's got one.
She's got one, and Jane Campbell's got very few. Because obviously...
Well, because she's been called into a ton of camps, but has not had a ton of playing time. And obviously, I think a lot of people are wondering, Casey Murphy, why isn't she on this list? I know a lot of United fans are screaming about Fallon Tillis-Joyce. We see you on social media. Don't worry, we see you.
I'm screaming for it.
Shut up.
I'm screaming for it, because I get that you don't want to bring a lot of players that are based in Europe, when I say European players, and then bring them back
I don't think it's about that. I get that. I really don't.
At the same time, she's got the greatest shot-stopping record at the moment in the league.
I will speak to this because, first and foremost, I was on the press conference when Emma Hayes spoke to this in January for January camp, and then I actually asked her directly about this on this She Believes press conference. So I have our answers, and here they are. In January, Emma Hayes gave She Believes as kind of like the timeline for when she wanted to narrow the goalkeeping pool down to 3. She said, by She Believes, I'd like to have kind of like my 3 goalkeepers that I can run with. And then when I followed up with her about it, because based on what she's been saying and the fact that she only called 2 goalkeepers in, I was like, I don't think she's on track on that timeline. And she basically said that was correct. She's not on that timeline anymore. And that now she knows that since she has camps in April and in May, that after those 2 camps, that's when she believes she'll have kind of like the final 3. I don't remember what she said. I don't think she said something specific about Casey Murphy. I don't know if she's a little injured or whatever, but she did speak. She said very directly that Casey Murphy is obviously still in that pool, so need not worry, everybody. And speaking on Fallon Tillis-Joyce, first of all, she was called into camp as a practice player, so you're not going to see her in a game, but she's still training with the national team. And for those of you who don't agree that that's still an honor, like, I don't know what to say to you. That's still a great honor. You get to be seen by the coach. You get to develop with the best in the world, with the best trainers in the world, and you get to start to get into the fold. And that's another thing that Emma Hayes spoke about, which is like, it takes a while to get into the fold of the U.S. women's national team in terms of the cadence, in terms of the community, in terms of getting up to that level and understanding the depths of the tactics, because these are tactics that have been developed over a long period of time and in training camps that you were not there for. So there's a lot of catch-up work to do. So you can't just jump right in and then jump right into a game. It's really not that easy. But she spoke specifically to actually Fallon Tillis-Joyce and said, look, her shot stopping is incredible. I would like to see her improve in her distribution.
I get that. I understand that. And I say no disrespect to Jane Campbell, but when you look at the season Houston Dash had last season, and then you look at the season that Fallon Joyce...
Jane Campbell was incredible in goal for the Houston Dash. Like, just because the Houston Dash had a bad year does not mean Jane Campbell had a bad year. She has been... And Jane Campbell's somebody who... You want to talk about paying your dues? She has paid all of them. And I am excited to see how this battle kind of unfolds. I do think that maybe we're down to 4. Maybe we're, and this is me now reading into everything, but I do think we're down to Jane Campbell, Mandy McGlynn, Casey Murphy, and Fallon Tillis-Joyce. I do think those are the 4. And you're going to end up with 3. Who's going to be the number 1? I'm not sure. But if you want to look at the NWSL and who had the best NWSL season, it was Jane Campbell. No question in my mind about it.
I just like getting you riled up. It's always fun for me.
I
like playing devil's advocate and just being like, I'll say something and then just like watch Sarah go.
Let's move it along, because it's not just the U.S. that are playing in this tournament. And while we don't have the time to get into all of the rosters, what we do have the time to do is preview some of these really fun matchups, because there are some great ones. And on Thursday, let's try to get to all of these, Allie. And we can do it quick, rapid fire. Well, I changed my mind. Let's not do that. Let's do it like this. On Thursday, Japan will face Australia. USA will face Colombia. I love these opening games to kick it off. Then we'll switch it around. Colombia will face Japan. USA, Australia. That one's always a fun one. And then finally, to conclude, it'll be Australia, Colombia, and then USA, Japan. Is there a matchup among those that I just mentioned that you are most excited for?
Japan, Colombia, Japan, Colombia, Japan, Colombia. I'm so excited.
I should have known. You love watching Japan play.
It's not even that. It's, for me, Japan.
It's partly that, though.
Well, it is, but then I would say US Colombia or Australia Colombia. Specifically, no, Japan. You got me thinking now. Don't start. So, but I would say the other games. The reason I am for Japan Colombia is because their styles of play are so different. They are so like opposite ends of the spectrum of how they play, and I'm excited to see how that's going to work. I'm so excited to see how that is going to work and who's going to come on top, because as we've seen before, Japan play a very measured game. They like to play out from the back. They try and create a low block and they break out of it, with a couple of great goal scorers, and I love to see that. Whereas Colombia is full on attack as much as possible. They like to get players forward. We see it with Pavi has been called up, Ramirez is being called up, Caicedo, like those sort of players going up against the Japanese defense. I'm like uber excited for that because of how different they play. Because the other matchups, you can see there's elements of similar gameplay. It's not necessarily the same, but there are elements. Whereas Japan, Colombia, all bets are off.
I have 3 that I'm most excited for. And I feel bad now because none of them have Japan in it. I'm really excited for Australia, Colombia. I think that's just going to be a firecracker of a game. And 2 teams that I just don't know where they're at right now. Like, based on their previous performances, neither of them are anywhere close to where they were during the 2023 World Cup. And I'm really hoping that that's changing and that they're kind of climbing back up to that level. We know Australia's not going to have Sam Kerr, but we've also seen they got through basically all of the World Cup without Sam Kerr. Like, we've seen them be dominant without Sam Kerr. So that's not too big of a change. I'm also really excited, obviously, for all USA games, but USA Australia is always a goal fest. I don't care what happens. It's just always a goal fest. It's just like those 2 teams step on the field and defense doesn't exist. And that's always a fun matchup. And then USA Colombia, just because, gosh, I love watching Colombia play and I'm very intrigued to see where they're at. All right. Is there a matchup here that you think could be like an unexpected great game? People maybe aren't circling, but it's unexpected.
To be honest, I'm thinking any of the Australia games because my prediction overall is Australia are going to get cooked.
Tell us why.
I'm looking at that roster and it's not even the Sam Kerr of it all because as we've said, like they played the World Cup without her. You know, Sam's been out for a while. It's not even that for me.
I mean, we've had this discussion about Australia that arguably they're maybe better without Sam Kerr because then they're forced to play as a team and not play get ball to Sam Kerr.
Exactly.
Mode of
and
soccer.
So we say that and we've seen it before and I love it. Australia are going through at the moment what the USA went through in the World Cup. They have got players that are on the edge of being done internationally. And I'm not being rude when I say that. You look at the average age of the Australian players. They are like they're on the older side and they haven't really had that flush of young talent come through yet. You know, like I'm looking at and they're like everybody's talking about this amazing midfield partnership which is Cooney Cross and Kat Gorey. 100%.
I mean, it is. But
Kat Gorey's in her 30s.
We all fell in love with it.
You know, Heyman is way up there. But Arnold is up there. They haven't, and I feel like it just hasn't worked out for Australia since the World Cup, and they haven't really done much to improve it.
Yeah. Let's see. Tamika Yallop, 130 caps. Emily Van Egmond, 153 caps. I won't include Haley Rasso because she's still, she's not really in that group. But Alana Kennedy, tons of caps. You mentioned Kat Gorey. You mentioned Mackenzie Arnold. That whole crew, they all came up together. They were like the youngins. And yeah, they are certainly on the older side now, especially as we head into 2027 and thinking about where they will be in 2027. That's especially when it starts to come to mind. I mean, I don't know. Steph Catley, Caitlin Ford, you might even be able to throw into that mix. I think they've got a lot of young talent, but I agree they need another crop coming up. And we haven't seen that young crop coming up, the one that's behind Mary Fowler, the one that's behind Cooney Cross. Who are those young players that are coming up behind them? We don't know. And maybe they're incredible, but we need to see, and they need to get experience before 2027.
And like the She Believes is the perfect time to do that, because I'm not saying it doesn't matter, because obviously you get a nice trophy at the end of it, but it's not a World Cup. It's not, the Asia Cup that the Australian teams play off and things like that. So for me, this is the perfect time to bring in.
There are 6 players on their roster that are uncapped, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
So I think we will start to see
I'm hoping so, but for me, I think it's not going to be. And you know what? I was wrong. I've been wrong before, and I'll be happily wrong again. But my overruling thing is, I think Australia will get cooked this tournament.
I don't think they're going to get cooked because of how Colombia have been kind of falling off. Because of just the more conservative nature of Japan's game, I don't think that they'll get cooked. They might have trouble scoring against Japan, but I don't think that they'll necessarily get cooked. We'll see. To be determined. My unexpected game, I guess it'll probably be USA-Japan. Obviously, that's a really historied and storied matchup, but I don't really expect much from it right now. It could be fire. It could actually be exciting. To me, I look at that and I'm like, yeah, like obviously I'll watch, but it might be a bit of a boring game. Who knows? Could be exciting. All right. I think that's it, everybody. So that's game day starts on Thursday, the 20th, and then it's tournament format. So then you get 2 days off in between. So Friday, Saturday off, Sunday games, Monday, Tuesday off, Wednesday games. And that's it.
So, Nations League is the new format for qualification for major tournaments. It used to be that they used to just randomly throw teams together and they played each other and in mini tournaments, and then they get into the bigger tournaments. But now they've actually seeded it, which means that you are going to get like-for-like teams. So no longer will you see the 21-0 score lines that we used to see. It's now competitive. It's a better indicator for teams on how they might do in, more major tournaments. I think it's overall a much better system. And we're going to talk about the home nations because that's what I know the best, and our little love for Republic Island. For those that don't know what the home nations are, that is England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
Okay, so let's do it. We just talked a bit about the US Women's National Team roster, and of course rosters were released for Nations League as well, including one for the one and only Lionesses. And we had a little texting conversation about this as well, Allie, so let's get into it. Let's just dive right in to the squad that the one and only Sarina has called up for Nations League. Initial reactions.
Well, first off, the little conversation we had is I got up in the middle of the night to get some water and saw Sarah go, England is so thin right now. And I was like, right, I'm not going to go into this slander. So I just fired off a thing about England and went back to bed. Because I'm like, this is what happens when...
It's true. I was saying that I think that the pool of players for the Lionesses is looking a little thin. And Allie was like, that's incorrect.
And I do think it's incorrect. But I'm not going to lie. I am bored. I am bored with Sarina's picks. At this moment in time, the only one that surprises me occasionally is who's going to be the third choice goalkeeper. And at the moment, it looks like Anna Morehouse has locked that in. But
which I think is, for the record, I'm happy about that.
Trust me.
I thought she's very, very well deserving of that.
Trust me, I'm super happy about that. I'm like, of the English goalkeepers that are going to be in the third, it has to be Anna Morehouse with the season she had at Orlando. But I could pretty much tell you who was going to be in that squad before it was released.
I think we all could.
And I'm bored because there is so much English talent out there that, like we were talking about with the American system, like trying out certain players, bringing them in, even if you're just not going to use, even if you know you're not going to use them in the games for training and to be possibly bringing up those replacements. And I'm not seeing it. Beth Mead's had to pull out because of an injury, which is why Chloe Kelly has been brought in. But again, I could have written that. And I get she's got minutes in the bank and she's now gone to Arsenal to try and improve that. But she hadn't played any football until the 33 minutes that she's played at Arsenal. And so I'm done. I'm really done with the lineup right now because it's the same regardless of injury, performance, and everything else.
Yeah.
And I'm done.
I will say... Sarina did talk about Chloe Kelly, weirdly enough, before she got called in, and basically said that she wasn't initially called in because, she has minutes in the bank, but she really doesn't have a lot of playing time at all recently, and that's why she wasn't called in. And then, lo and behold, injury happens, and she gets called in. I was happy to see Lucy Parker called up, too, alongside Chloe Kelly. I feel like that's something a little different.
Yeah, no, we are getting the odd player, but I'm just like that. And again, there are so many players that I'm like are doing. It's hard to explain because obviously, if you're not in a top 4 team, it's hard to justify it. But for me, for example, Grace Fisk at Liverpool has been defensively so sound and has really. There's a reason Liverpool are 7th and are climbing and have put in, and she is phenomenal and she can bang in goals as well as defend. Surely she deserves to get put in the mix to see what she can do, because I get it, right? At the moment we're starting a new Nations League tournament and it's for qualifications, but at the same time, you need to be able to see, because we saw what happened in the World Cup with Leah Williamson out and we didn't really know what we were doing, and I think by hook or by crook we got to that final. And for me, it just feels like Sarina hasn't changed her format or her team since the Euros win. And that's just going to cost us because the players are not the same. Millie Bright hasn't got back to full fitness. Leah Williamson hasn't got back to full fitness. They are not the same players that won us the Euros.
Or the World Cup.
Or the World Cup. To be nearer. So for me, I'm just like, at this moment in time, now is the time... It's literally, now is the time to bring in, like I said, even if you know you're not going to play them on match day, even if you know that's not going to happen, like you said, bring them into camp, get them training, get them into the fold, get them learning the processes that have been put in place before they are brought in. Because Millie Bright's not going to last forever. Liam Williamson is not going to last forever. We've seen that Hempo is injured. We're seeing that Stanway is injured. And I'm not seeing the replacements that we're getting. And yeah, so as an England fan, I'm bored and I want to see some fresh blood in there.
I get it. I really do, especially because recent results haven't all been that fantastic. So that also lends to the question of like, okay, well, if we're, blowing everybody out of the water and playing really well and everything looks great, don't change it. But that's not really what's been happening.
No, we're scraping results here and there. Like, we barely beat Switzerland the last time around. And like we said, we've got the group of death in the Euros. So we have really got to up our game. We lost to Germany. We barely beat South Africa. It was a 0-0 draw against the US. These are not fantastic results. And so, yeah, that's my little rant for the week. But I'm like, I want to see some fresh blood in the England camp because we're not seeing it.
All right, so we've got a lot of really fun games on the docket. And remember, everybody, the Republic of Ireland did not qualify for the Euro. And that was by the skin of their teeth and because of, perhaps, you could argue, another home nation. So this is going to be really fun to see everybody face each other. So talk us, what are the games? When are they going on? Tell us the details.
So, England, as we mentioned, they are playing Portugal on the 21st of February, and then are playing current world champions Spain at Wembley on the 26th of February. So this will be interesting.
Oh, baby.
This will be interesting. We are then going to Scotland.
I'm sorry, wait. We need to spend a little more time on that. It's the 2023 finals. It's the rematch.
It is. No.
How can we not be super excited for this? I'm pumped. I think of the international break, this is the game I'm most excited for.
No, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be massive that it's at Wembley.
Big time.
It's fallen in the school holidays over here in the UK, which means that the attendance should be pretty good. And like you said, it's a rematch of the World Cup, so it should be thing. I just feel like England can get battered.
We'll see. All right, and talk to us about Scotland.
So Scotland are taking on Austria on the 21st of Feb, and then they've got a super tough task because they are playing the Netherlands on the 25th. Now, this will be a very interesting because Scotland have got rid of their head coach. They've got an interim coach at the moment. They haven't replaced yet. And if you listen to my chat with Rianne on our Patreon, you'll know that there is a lot of controversy of who's getting called up again with the Scotland team. They don't seem to be picking players that are playing in the Scottish League. And again, they're facing the same issues that England are in the fact there's not much,
very much
not
so.
much fresh blood getting in there. They're relying on older players.
A lot of old legends, though. Legends.
Oh, they are legends, but they're also losing because like Kim Little has retired from international football. Jen Beattie's retired full stop. They are coming down on that, but it'll be exciting to see how they face up on such tough opponents as Austria and the Netherlands. Wales, I'm super excited for this one because this is going to be a huge test for the squad because they are the team that qualified for the Euros. And as we mentioned, this is their first tournament ever that they have managed to qualify for. And these are going to be some big, big teams they are playing. They are playing Italy on the 21st of Feb, and then they have Sweden on the 25th of Feb. This is going to be massive in terms of narrowing down who is going to get into that Welsh squad for the Euros. We've already seen Hayley Ladd move teams to get that game time. We're seeing, young players like Carrie Jones, absolutely phenomenal player. Rhiannon Roberts, there is some great talent in that Welsh squad, and this is going to be the final narrowing of who's going to make that final 22.
And let's do Northern Ireland and then Republic of Ireland.
So Northern Ireland will be taking on Poland on the 21st and then Bosnia-Herzegovina on the 25th of February. Again, they're going to be interesting because, they are lower ranked teams than Northern Ireland, but we've seen a bit of a blip with Northern Ireland. They are missing a couple of talisman players. So for me, I'm going to be interested to see what sort of squad they're going to bring, the formation they're going to bring against teams that are lower ranked to them, because they're going to want to build themselves back up to get World Cup qualification. Republic of Ireland, as you mentioned, narrowly missed out on the Euros by Wales. It was an insane game. And listen to my chat with Sean from the FAW on our Patreon. I'm getting the plugs in.
Get them in.
Talking about Welsh football and what they've done there. So with the Republic of Ireland, they are playing Turkey on the 21st of February, and then they've got Slovenia on the 25th. Again, it's lower ranked teams for the Republic of Ireland, but they have got to rebuild. After the loss to Wales and not qualifying for the Euros, they've got to rebuild. And again, they've got to look at the talent they've got and how are they going to rejig it and refocus it. Obviously, they've got a new manager now and how that's going to work. So it's exciting times for the Republic of Ireland, and definitely, as you said, winnable games.
I feel like when I watch the Republic of Ireland, my huge takeaway is usually, wow, it is incredible how much Katie McCabe can impact and influence a game from an outside back or outside winger position. Because it's wild when you see the level she's at. I feel like it stands out more when she's playing with her country because she does so much for them. And I'm not trying to disparage other people on that field, but like you look at a lot of the goals and they are wholly created by Katie McCabe. All right. Anyways, that wasn't supposed to be what we end on, but that's what we end on. All right. That's it, everybody. It was WSL at the top, and of course, the international break preview, because we're headed into international break. You know what that means for next week? We're talking international break next week. That's right. Whoop, whoop. All right. We'll see you next Wednesday for the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.